Man, I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear!
Hi, welcome to my channel, or rather, welcome back. This is the first video in the three-part series about the good, the bad, and the not quite ugly, depending on how you look at it, of Zack Snyder's DC trilogy. This starts with Man of Steel, Snyder's best movie out of the three that he made. I should also mention that I might have a bit of bias towards this movie. I remember loving it when I was a kid. I was 9 when the movie came out, and I'm 20 now, and obviously when you're 9 you think everything is awesome. But the thing is, that as much of my childlike wonder I might have lost, The Man of Steel is still one of my absolute favorite superhero movies to this day. Now, before you pelt me with eggs and tomatoes and disregard my opinion, just hear me out. Man of Steel is a personal story, following the life of a social outcast as he tries to navigate the world, possessing powers he doesn't truly understand because he was taught to hide them as a child. The movie has a dark and somber tone, which ended up being one of the big complaints about it, with a good chunk of moviegoers feeling it was too dark for Superman. But personally, I loved it. I think it was a good way to juxtapose what Superman is, a symbol of hope in a hopeless world. Sadly, DC dropped the idea for a darker tone in later movies like Shazam and Suicide Squad and The Flash.
How about this one? I call it bold and brash. More like belongs in the trash! Ah!
And opted for the vibrant and lighthearted MCU type of movies, which isn't intrinsically a bad thing. But I think it only speaks volumes about Man of Steel and movies like it. Movies that aren't afraid of being different from the status quo. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The story of Man of Steel isn't particularly groundbreaking, but I'd argue that it didn't need to be. The movie begins with the planet Krypton in a destabilized state from the mining of the planetary core. Just before the planet explodes, Krypton's Supreme Council Chief Advisor, Jor-El, infuses the genetics codex into his infant son, Kal-El, the first naturally born Kryptonian in centuries. Jor-El manages to send Kal-El in a spacecraft towards Earth before being killed by General Zod during an uprising.
Laura, listen to me! The Codex is Krypton's future! Abort the launch!
General Zod is then banished to the Phantom Zone, but not before vowing to find Jor-El's son.
You believe your son is safe? I will find him. I will reclaim what you have taken from us! I will find him. I will find him, Laura. I will find him!
Kal-El lands in Kansas, where he's adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent, and then named Clark. He grows older and develops superhuman powers like heightened senses and super strength. Jonathan urges him to keep them hidden, even telling Clark he was wrong to save a bus full of kids that crashed into a river.
A secret. What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
And refusing Clark's help years later during his sudden tornado where he loses his life. After witnessing Jonathan's death, feeling nothing but guilt, Clark travels the globe, hiding under various aliases, seeking a purpose in life. Meanwhile, a Daily Planet reporter, Lois Lane, receives an assignment to investigate the discovery of a Kryptonian scout ship in the Canadian Arctic. Clark enters the ship disguised as a worker and learns from its artificial intelligence, modeled after his father Jor-El, that Clark was sent to Earth to guide its people. During this, Lois decides to follow Clark, but accidentally triggers the ship's security system, and Clark finds her and uses his powers to rescue her from the defenses. He wears a uniform that was provided by the ship's AI and begins testing his new flying abilities. Meanwhile, unable to convince her supervisor Perry White to publish an article on the incident, Lois tracks down Clark in Smallville with the intent of exposing him. But Lois decides to drop the story upon hearing the story of Jonathan Kent's sacrifice, keeping Clark's identity safe while fueling Perry's suspicions. Zod and his crew have escaped the Phantom Zone, and they set a course for Earth, not only in search of a new planet, but Kal-El as well. They arrive on Earth, first sending out a fairly unsettling transmission. Explaining why they've arrived and who they were looking for. Once they find Kal, General Zod tells him that his intent is to build a new civilization for Kryptonians. Zod only leaves out the fact that he's going to conquer Earth to do it. But when Kal asks what will happen to Earth in the process, "Where is the Codex, Kal? If Krypton lives again, what happens to Earth? The foundation has to be built on something. Even your father recognized that." "No, Zod. I can't be part of this." "Then what can you be a part of?" "No! Zod! No! Ah!" The Kryptonians reveal that they have several machines that can be used for terraforming, which will be used as tools in their plans of conquest. After Clark and Lois's capture, Zod's second-in-command extracts Clark's genes to create the Kryptonian society who will build the world based on Zod's ideals of genetic purity, which just reminds me of a certain someone. Can't quite put my finger on it. But, using the Jor-El AI to take over the ship, Clark and Lois flee and warn the U.S. military of Zod's plan, resulting in an explosive confrontation between Clark and Zod's troops. Zod deploys his most powerful terraforming device, the World Engine, which absolutely decimates Metropolis and puts humanity's very existence at risk. In an amazing scene, Clark destroys the terraforming platform while the military launches a suicide mission, successfully sending Zod's troops back to the Phantom Zone. With the ship destroyed and Krypton's only hope of revival gone, Zod vows to destroy Earth and humankind itself out of revenge. The two Kryptonians engage in a lengthy battle across Metropolis, destroying buildings and leveling the skyline. The fight concludes when Clark kills Zod as he uses laser vision to try and kill a family in a train station.
Man, I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear!
Clark is devastated as the weight of what he's done sets in. In the final moments of the movie, Clark persuades the government to let him act independently, under the condition that he does not turn against humanity. And in a smart move to gain access to dangerous situations just in case, he takes a job as a reporter for the Daily Planet as Clark, and as his alter ego, he chooses the name Superman. This movie is far from perfect, but I love it all the same. The tone, the acting, the set and costume design, the direction are all truly amazing. Henry Cavill is, once again, perfectly cast in this movie, a kind and yet stoic hero. Quite literally a gentle giant in every way. Well, excluding what he did to Zod. But, speaking of, Michael Shannon is a total powerhouse as Zod. He plays an eloquent conqueror from the stars in an insanely menacing performance. The rest of the ensemble of the movie is fantastic as well, from Lawrence Fishburne to Amy Adams to Kevin Costner. The way the Kryptonian tech and armor is designed is impressive and sleek. And it might look a little phallic at times, but it looks otherworldly. And while it has that otherworldly look, it also has the look of fantasy armor almost. To be honest, it almost looks like armor from Skyrim, but with a more sci-fi oriented look, which isn't a bad thing. I think the lack of color and the bulkiness, as well as some of the sharp edges, make the armor look more physically imposing, and it also works from a filmmaking standpoint. The sharp, almost triangular nature of the suits from the Kryptonians indicate how dangerous and threatening they are, along with the more squared-off parts of their suits which exude strength, which is perfect for antagonists. as opposed to our protagonist, Superman, whose design is squared off and rounded off, making him come off not only as strong, but kind-hearted and approachable. I love this story, as it's a bit more of a dark departure from what audiences are used to. One particular aspect of the story I love is Clark's wandering. It beautifully characterizes him as a tragic character, who knows he's too powerful for his own good, and it shows how he wants to honor his father's wish and stay hidden, especially after feeling the weight and guilt and responsibility for his father's death. I actually found it similar to a storyline that the Hulk might go through. Overall, the story is simple, but it does have some awesome moments sprinkled throughout. Despite the fact that I might be singing the movie's praises, I will say, however, there are things that I'm not a huge fan of. For example, the way that John Kent dies. It feels really unnecessary in the grand scheme. Sure, I can understand that he wants his son to remain hidden, but he dies in a tornado because he's stuck, which makes no sense when you think about it, because he could easily get help from Clark, and Clark didn't have to use his powers to save his father. It would have been as simple as just going to get his dad to get unstuck. The whole event is played up for drama, and while it's sad, it doesn't have the impact that it should have when the problem could have been solved easily and simply. John could have lived. Another thing I wasn't too fond of is the dialogue in some sections. It can be very generic at times. For example, the most climactic moment in the film, where Zod and Superman fight all across the city, the stakes are high, and life as Superman knows it will cease to exist if he doesn't stop Zod. And from Zod's point of view, he's fighting a petulant child who is willing to save a planet of beings who aren't even his own by any means necessary, including dooming his entire race of people. And the movie is aware of this, and Zod gives an amazing monologue at the start of the fight, but for the rest of it, the dialogue devolves into generic run-of-the-mill lines. Look at this. We could have built a new Krypton in this squalor, but you chose the humans over us. I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole reason for which I was born. And every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people. And now, I have no people. My soul. That is what you have taken from me! I'm going to make them suffer, Cal. These humans you've adopted, I will take them all from you one by one. You're a monster, Zod. And I'm gonna stop you. There's only one way this ends, Cal. Either you die, or I do. I was bred to be a warrior, Cal. Trained my entire life to master my senses. Where did you train? On a farm? I know it might seem like I'm nitpicking, and I am, simply because I can't really think of anything more to criticize. One more thing I loved in the movie was Hans Zimmer's musical talent. In the iconic Superman movie starring Christopher Reeve, there was a theme by John Williams that I'm sure we're all familiar with. That theme is the ideal song for Superman, a boisterous fanfare full of hope. But the song Flight, the theme that plays when Superman takes flight for the first time in Man of Steel, is genuinely one of the best pieces of music I've ever heard put to film. It's a beautiful mix of the sounds of an orchestra and a rock ballad. The big swells feel like a love letter to the original theme, while the softer and slower section perfectly helps with the characterization of Superman. The moments where he feels helpless and hopeless and wants to give up, but decides to keep going. And not just for himself, but all of humanity. The music is also beautifully paired with a monologue from Russell Crowe's Jor-El, which is just icing on the cake. But this is only one example of the full Man of Steel soundtrack, which is a definite masterpiece. To conclude, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is a cinematic masterpiece that brilliantly encapsulates the essence and spirit of Superman. The film excels in multiple facets, including its remarkable music score, meticulous design, captivating story, and outstanding performances by the cast. Hans Zimmer's musical composition adds a layer of emotional depth, enhancing the overall cinematic experience and underscoring Superman's journey. The film's design elements, from the breathtaking visuals to the intricately crafted sets, contribute to an immersive world that complements the narrative. Snyder's vision and direction breathe life into Superman's story, presenting a fresh and compelling take on the iconic character. Say what you like about Zack Snyder, but the man can direct. The storyline itself is a triumph, offering a rich exploration of Superman's origins, inner struggles, and eventual emergence as a symbol of hope and heroism. The narrative delves into the challenges he faces, making the character more relatable and human despite his extraordinary abilities. Moreover, the cast's performances are nothing short of stellar, with Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman being one of the best in any superhero film I've ever seen. Cavill embodies the iconic superhero, bringing depth, vulnerability, and adds strength to the character. The supporting cast also delivers exceptional performances, adding to the overall brilliance of the movie. Overall, while not being perfect, Man of Steel was most definitely a unique movie, and I genuinely believe that it's worth a rewatch if you have the time. And so, that brings us to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of Man of Steel. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What would you change about it if you could? And remember, this is a 3-part series, so after this, I'll make videos on Batman v Superman and Justice League. But, until then, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.